Welcome, everybody. Today we have a very special guest.
I knew early on that I wanted to make movies.
It's such a difficult industry because there's a lot of luck involved.
I mean, look at American Werewolf in London, look at The Thing, look at The Fly. Look at these films that have really withstood the test of time.
I sculpted this Captain Kirk mask, and they didn't sell particularly well, but then John Carpenter came in, said, can you paint one white and spray paint his hair black?
I was maybe 9 or 10 years old, and it scared the living shit out of me.
You're just racking up these people that you grew up watching. They're in your films. Is that surreal?
There were 35 directors there. If there had been a bomb dropped on that restaurant, never another good horror movie.
Bene's Bloody Bits.
Welcome to Triple B. I am Jason Bene. He is film historian Malcolm Harvey. How are you doing on this Monday? Malcolm, your microphone's off.
I'm doing absolutely fantastic today. I have to mute it because for some reason it never mutes on the startup. So I've learned to mute beforehand, but I'm not making noises because like you went.
No, it's okay. You can burp, you can fart, whatever. It's all good.
Oh, so I can jump up and down and start singing dirty songs and everything, can I?
Well, no, don't get me in trouble now. So what we're doing today is we're doing a career retrospective, at least for the most part, not the entire career. Filmmaker Jeff Burr, he passed away last year, kind of unexpected. A lot of people were caught off guard. A lot of his friends on social media were really upset. And I wanted to look back on his career, at least the meat and potatoes of his work, the stuff that he's most memorized for. And I feel like he's not someone that people think of when they think of great filmmakers. It's not always the David Cronenbergs and John Carpenters and Dario Argentos. Give me these kind of direct-to-video auteurs as well. And Jeff streak from like late 80s to mid 90s. And The Offspring, the film behind me, also called From a Whisper to a Scream, starring, one of his last roles, Vincent Price. And, he's basically a librarian. He's interviewed by a reporter, and he kind of goes into these 4 different tales. This is the wraparound, and they all involve the town of Oldfield, Tennessee. And this is not lighthearted horror anthology. This is not an omnibus film. This is not, Creep Show 2 or Cat's Eye. This is Clu Gulager playing a killer that, he has necrophilia is involved. And this baby comes back, like a zombie baby comes back and is looking for daddy and stuff. And it's just, it's a twisted tale. You also have these, Civil War era tale with these kids that are like, ripping, soldiers' bodies apart, and something that you really can't do today. Kids involved with severed limbs and killing adults, and it's so not politically correct, and it's ahead of its time. And there's also a tale of a guy that works at a carnival, and he's a glass eater, but he can eat, glass and nuts and bolts, and he kind of falls for a girl at the carnival, and he tries to leave. And well, the lady that gives him his powers is like, you're not going anywhere. And let's just say there's an amazing, explosive finale to that episode that is absolutely grotesque. And the other tale is a voodoo guy that can give you eternal life. And this guy's on the run from the law, and he has no patience and doesn't realize, he kills this guy off, not realizing that this guy has already given him eternal life. And let's just say there's a very macabre ending, and this guy's going to be in pain forever. But what are your thoughts on From a Whisper to a Scream? What do you think?
Well, I think it's a really good. I think it's a good anthology. It's one of those ones that stands out more. Now, I ain't seen it in years, and unluckily, I didn't get to watch it this week. But from what I do remember of it, each story has such a good end twist. But you kind of just feel like it's up like a higher tier than most of them. You know, and having like Vincent Price as the wraparound as well makes you think of the older times where he was like the lead, like having a real legend there. You know what I mean? A bit like when Seven released Theatre Macabre, you know, that in the box set. And the only reason most people watch it was because he was on the front of it. Yeah, well, it's a good film. You know, really good, and I'd recommend it to a lot of people. And I love the cover as well with the head.
And it's a completely different time because just look at all the actors that are older. You would get these younger people if this movie was made today. You got Clu Gallagher, Vincent Price, Cameron Mitchell, Martine Beswick, and I honestly rank it right behind my number one anthology of all time is Creepshow, followed by Tales from the Hood. I actually rank From a Whisper to Scream number 3. It plays like the old school horror anthologies, but it's with an 80s slant. Very violent, gory, a lot of taboo subject matter going on in this film. It's really well done. The Blu-ray is available from Scream Factory. I want to say that I can see Vinegar Syndrome doing a 4K of this in the future, especially because it's an MGM title.
Well, I'll say this. I think you missed when you said your favorite is Creepshow, you meant number 3.
We will not talk about that cinematic fart blower, but yes, please go check out The Offspring. But it's mostly known by From a Whisper to a Scream on home video. But that was a very strong movie to open his career with. So now he kind of gets typecast as kind of like the direct-to-video guy. So we're going to like swing over into Stepfather 2. Now, I like the original Stepfather. It's a great film. Terry O'Quinn is a star, a regular guy that basically is looking for the perfect family, never finds it, and he kills them off. You think he kind of looks like he dies at the end of the original, but not really. He kind of just takes a stab wound, and it's horror sequels. You can always
He gets shot at the end of the first one. The stab wound's at the end of the second one.
But look, in the world of horror, you could always be brought back. And, Jeff Burr is tapped to direct the sequel, direct the video. And I actually feel like it's more of a horror film where the original is more like a thriller. Plays like a little bit more polished, a little bit more. I mean, don't get me wrong. The original has some good violence, and Jill Schoelen gets completely naked, and that's always a bonus or a boner. But I feel like with the casting of Meg Foster from They Live in Part 2, as well as Caroline Williams from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, it's a little bit more gory, a more violent.
Let's have Jonathan Brandis as the kid.
I mean, I really feel like it kind of ups the ante as far as the exploitation elements. Terry O'Quinn, thank God, is back. He wasn't in the Part 3. They recast him. But I actually put this one slightly above the original Stepfather. What are your thoughts on it?
I put it above the first one as well because I really think this film is hilarious. I think it's got some great comedy in it as well. Like the bit where Matty confronts him and says, "Oh, you went to this school, did you?" And he went, "Yeah, a lot of things changed in 25 years." Let's go. Shows him a whole black basketball team, and he goes, "Yeah, not that much." And when he's got on about how much he loves them, and when he's strangling them, and he's going, "If you take it easy, it won't be as bad." Like nobody's going to be laying there with their head going while they're getting choked. Hilarious movie, but in the right way. Oh, and the ending where they play the the wedding march music as she's walking on all bloody. Hilarious, I'll tell you. But it's brilliant. It's so much fun. You sit there, you get shocked, you laugh, and he's perfect in the role. He really is. Because when he says, one of the greatest lines is, "Why can't I just have a family?" And you're like, I feel bad for you. I really do.
Well, the problem with his character is because he's out of his freaking mind. There's no such thing as a perfect family. As soon as one little thing doesn't go his way, Master Chaos. Jeff Burr was the man.
Ooh.
Never met him, but he's a fellow genre warrior. No, man, I never interviewed him. I always wanted to. He was on Facebook for a while, but I think Jeff Burr eventually left Hollywood. He actually, from what I've heard, didn't like to be known as the horror guy. He did some movies later on, like one was called Eddie Presley, which wasn't a genre film. I think another one was called Straight into Darkness, which was a war film. But for me, these are the films I remember him from. These are just the fun. But going back to Terry O'Quinn, this is long before he was in Lost, but his acting chops, he takes the role so seriously, and he plays that really good, nice, family man well. But then he snaps, man. When things don't go his way, he Jekyll and Hyde, he becomes a monster. And third one is not as good. Like I said, he was recast. They actually give the character a facelift, like plastic surgery, to explain why it's not.
Isn't the tagline of the third one, he has two families this time?
I think so. And then, of course, there's the very flaccid PG-13 remake, which we won't give too much stock to.
Oh, the one with, is it Dylan Walsh?
It's hard to make a living out here. A lot of folks leave, even if they have big movies. Yeah. I think his last few years, Jeff was, I forget what state, but somewhere in the Midwest, kind of where he grew up. But he kind of got away from Hollywood. But this is kind of why I want to do this retrospective. Jeff, wherever you are out there, your fans still appreciate you. And you still have these great films. I own Stepfather 2 on DVD from Synapse Films. I don't believe there's a Blu-ray of it.
There is.
Who put it out?
There's a European Blu-ray of 1 and 2. I'm not sure whether it's Spanish or if it's like Italian or French, but there is one because I found it on eBay.
So there is a Euro version out there, but I have a feeling somebody needs to put out a Blu-ray of it. I just think it's
we need a trilogy box set.
We'll see. That third one, I want to say it was a Showtime movie, so made for cable. It was made for TV, wasn't it? Yeah. So anyways, Stepfather 2, we both agree it is superior to the original film.
Yes, it's a masterpiece of horror and comedy.
Masterpieces, I got it. So now we're going to move on from Stepfather 2 to the third installment of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. You got, Ken Foray from Dawn of the Dead. I actually think the best thing about this movie is the trailer.
Yes, I agree.
I think it's kind of like, it even made the cover of Fangoria. It's like kind of playing on Excalibur. Yeah. And the hand comes out of the water and it throws the chainsaw in the air and it flips and Leatherface catches it. But it plays like very serene and you see Leatherface from behind. And that is actually one of the best teaser trailers of all time. I do like the film. It's the Halloween franchise. StreamYard issues over here. Sorry if I'm doing the whirlpool. Okay, but anyways, I do enjoy Leatherface. I know it went through a lot of edits because of the MPAA.
Jeff Burr got fired from the project, didn't he? And then he had to go beyond because no one wanted to do it.
Yeah, I know the MPAA, late 80s, early 90s were having a lot of issues with gore, which was so stupid. I think it was Jack Valente and Tipper Gore and all these asshats were making a big deal of it. I know that David Shaw was the writer on it, but I think it's a solid film. It's definitely better than the one that comes after this, The Next Generation.
Number 4 is better. It's got my mum in it, so it's better.
My buddies William Butler and Kate Hodge and Ken Foray make Leatherface very special for me.
Oh.
In a pre-pro on a new film, a found footage film, so I have to jump off. See you, boys. Okay, Master Chaos. We need to come back with Malcolm and I and talk about this new film because you left us this tease.
Yeah, definitely. You didn't talk to us about
it. But where do you? What's your thoughts on the third Leatherface film?
I think it's a very hollow film. I think it's hard to fully take it as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film because it doesn't feel like at any time it's really in the Texas. I will say, I don't know if you know this, and because I could be wrong, but it looked like the gas station was the same as used in, is it However Showed That? The Dan Carradine horror movie we talked about, Dan Peacock's one. It looked like the same area.
Kind of like out in the middle of nowhere, right? Like in the middle of...
yeah, because it looked the same, like the backgrounds and that, it looked the same. So I'm not sure if that's a bit of trivia.
I don't know that for sure, but I do enjoy this film. It's I need to watch it and buy it and really kind of take a deep dive, because after the third film, I kind of they're hit or miss for me. Some of them I liked. I wasn't so much in the Platinum Dunes remake and prequel, so I actually have a little bit more respect for this one.
Yeah.
It's not as camp as 2, and it's not as bad as The Next Generation. I find that one to be awful. I know some people like it. I just can't get into that one.
But the best, because I've got an emotional connection to it because it stars my mum.
And I want to say that this is on Blu-ray. I don't know if it was.
It is on Blu-ray. It is on Blu-ray.
Was it Warner Brother Archive that put it out?
I believe so, yes.
I feel like it needs a more bigger release, bells and whistles, slipcover edition.
It needs a Vinegar Syndrome release.
I'm trying to remember who played Leatherface in this one. Was it R.A. McKelloff?
Yeah, it was something like that. And that's what his name was, like R.A. or R.B. McKelloff.
He's a character. I used to always see him at the convention scene. He'd have a table and stuff, and he was definitely an odd fellow. But no,
I'm going to be honest. I think the mask in this isn't that great either, and I think Leatherface is too simple in this. When I say simple, I mean he just sits at the table with them, with the chainsaw on the table and that. It doesn't seem as deranged as he does in other movies. He doesn't seem to get slapped around or anything.
They have to reinforce the Saw is family, so I'm just going to sit here at the table hanging out with my chainsaw. No, it's.
And the other thing is, he's holding everybody and hurting them. Like when he sticks the other guy's hand in the oven, and you're like, why do they keep putting so many different members in this family in every bloody film?
The family, it gets bigger. I definitely think it's a step, not a huge step down, but a small step down from Stepfather 2, but still a high quality. Look, if we could get a straight to video release like this now, it won't happen. That's the thing, is we were very spoiled in that era. Even direct-to-video films had a quality, a production value. Felt like the people cared about it. It wasn't product, it wasn't content. So yes, it's not the greatest film ever, but I still feel like it's elevated to what we get now.
Well, I'll be honest with you, because what you just said, even though I don't think it's the best, it's still a lot more watchable than a lot of TV movies that were, and a lot of movies that were made now, horror-wise. It has a little bit more going for it. And it does have a decent cast. I mean, Viggo Mortensen's incredible in it.
So we go now to Pumpkinhead 2, Bloodwing. So the original Pumpkinhead is actually a very fucking good film. It's Stan Winston, makeup artist turned director, and people talk about Savini going from, makeup effects to directing the remake of Night of the Living Dead. I don't think it's that good. Pumpkinhead, for a makeup artist and a first-time director, he just knocks it out of the park. The design work is great. It's a bigger film. It has a better, budget. 2 is still cool. I mean, the monster looks different. Pumpkinhead is in the sequel is K&B Effects does it.
It made me think, looking at him, so it's Kane here, but looking at him in this Pumpkinhead made me think of Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Did he look smaller to you? Like he was giant in the first film. Did he look a little bit shorter in this one?
He looked smaller and he looked more rubbery.
Yeah, I mean, K&B Effects, they're legends. They did the work on Pumpkinhead. Also, the witch looks a little bit different. I want to say they recast. It doesn't look like the same lady from the first film.
No.
But it does have Amy Dolenz from Ticks and she's always, you know, I always like watching her in films, especially around this time.
And Hill Harper. It stars Hill Harper.
And George, not George, Bill Clinton's brother, George Clinton.
Oh.
So yeah, at the time, President of the United States, you know, his brother had a small role in this, and it's definitely more camp. It suffers from a lower budget, and you know, Pumpkinhead doesn't look as good. But also, Linnea Quigley pops up into it. It's
in the next scene.
It's a fun. Of course, she is. If
What I want to know is this: can we have this debate quickly, right? So, early on in our movies, they were extremely tiny and barely stood out. In this movie, they're like humongous. Did she have a job done?
I don't think so, because she's still small-breasted now. I know of that time you have Michelle Bauer, Linnea Quigley, and Brink Stevens.
Yeah.
I think the only one that had breast augmentation was Michelle Bauer. Because if you look at early roles or even the adult films that she did as P.S. Snow, they were smaller. And then like toward the late 80s, Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers and stuff like that, they're bigger. I think Brink and Linnea didn't do it.
Just let's ask, is Linnea Quigley's breasts, they look a lot bigger in this? Maybe it was someone else from behind.
I know Return of the Living Dead, you know, when she played Trash, and she did, you know, pretty much everything. But I could be wrong. I don't think she had anything done. But hey, they know what they're doing. If you're going to make a movie like this, give us gore and some nudity, and it gives us something to talk about. Can you imagine if you pull that out of these movies? Then you're just bored. Then you might as well be making the 1950s Creature from the Black Lagoon film, right? Where you have a creature.
There's plenty of sex in that. When he's underwater with her. Oh, that's what that noise is.
I would put Pumpkinhead 2 on the same level as Chainsaw 3. I still think Stepfather 2, and of course The Offspring is way up here. But I still think it's a fun, entertaining film. I know that Scream Factory had done a Blu-ray of it. I want to say it's out of print. Part 2.
I think it is. I own part 2. A Films recently released it in the UK.
And I could see Scream Factory doing an upgrade to 4K like they do with everything, you know, or do a Steelbook or something. I did make the mistake of not buying that Blu-ray. I would pick it up if it gets a re-release, or worst case scenario, go, you know, pick up 88 Films.
Well, they released the first one, didn't they, on 4K recently? So maybe they will do the second one.
So I do give, you know, Pumpkinhead 2 a slight thumbs up. It definitely is a middle of the road kind of film. It's not, you know.
Let me just ask this quickly. Have you seen 3 and 4?
Or you mean, they were like straight to Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, because Lance Henriksen in as well again.
And I think they were released on DVD, but never anything past that. I don't remember them being good. I want to say they were shot back to back for Sci-Fi Channel.
They're very amateur shot, apparently. Probably why, because of the Sci-Fi Channel.
Linnea's boobs look bigger than in Savage Street. So maybe she did. Thank you, Hansi Muller.
But then wasn't Savage Streets made like 10 years prior to this?
Yeah, that was like what, early to mid 80s, Savage Street?
She was quite young in that.
Yeah.
And anyway, if you were looking at her breasts in that, you missed the best scene, then the blur in the bathtub.
Okay, now we're going to go, still in the direct-to-video realm, but we're going to go into Charles Band's Full Moon universe. I will just be straightforward. I'm not the biggest Puppet Master fan of any of them. I just find that they're not scary. They're kind of like, the only way that movies work for me is if you actually give the puppets something to do. And I will give credit for this kind of 4 and 5, which Jeff Burr directed. Right now we're going to do 4. At least with Courtney Joyner being the writer, they're given something to do. But to me, I'm more of an Empire fan when it comes to Charles Band, and not so much the Full Moon stuff, especially the Ginger Dead Man and fucking Evil Bong. But at least this is early to mid 90s, and it's still kind of riding the coattails of the Empire stuff in the late 80s. Still, I think the quality is better. I think his 2 Puppet Master movies are the weakest of this time frame. But what do you think of 4?
Did you say the first time?
I've seen them, but it's been years ago. I wasn't really a big fan of them, so I don't think I ever rewatched them.
You don't like the second one where he turns the woman and himself into puppets and they smash him up and she's riding along with him in a bus?
I'm not the biggest Puppet Master fan. I want to be transparent, and
Your
but I do
hover
feel
cart's
like
been taken away.
I feel like, Puppet Master 4, which is right here in front of us, and also Puppet Master 5. These two,
They're back to back, aren't they? They're like continuous story.
exactly. These movies were probably shot together, but this was a time where Charles Band still had a budget. The VHS, video stores were still big. He was putting out a lot of these films through Paramount, so he was making money. And I think he was making good enough money that he would hire other people to direct the films. And Jeff Burr was like his, a go-to guy at this time. And I think, I don't love the series, but I do find 4 and 5 to be quite entertaining, considering they're, the 4th and 5th film of the series. Usually by then, they're played out, and they're
not
really
like the ones now.
Oh, the ones now,
The ones
they're 60-minute films. At least these are 80, 90-minute movies. But where do you rank 4 and 5 with Jeff Burr?
What in the Puppet Master or in Jeff Burr?
Just the Jeff Burr's, canon of films.
I'd probably put them above Leatherface for me. But I would say Stepfather and Pumpkinhead 2 are at the same, and I would obviously put, Offspring at number 1. I do remember watching this, and they were a lot of fun. The whole alien toys against the puppets, and it was a lot of fun, And I didn't like the lead guy in it, though. The lead guy in it bored me senseless.
Yeah, I feel like Charles Band has a fetish for these toy films. Ooga Booga and all this stuff. And I know recently,
that's one, but we need to talk about Ooga Booga.
It's actually one of the better of the last 20 years. I mean, it's not saying a lot, but Ooga Booga is actually very offensive and totally would piss off the.
We should do a whole offensive toy horror movies video.
Okay, so you're with me. This is probably the weakest 2 films of this era for Jeff Burr.
Yeah.
Well,
they're fun, but they're not great. They're quite unmemorable, really.
This is my number 2 film. Night of the Scarecrow, not to be confused with the 80s film Dark Night of the Scarecrow with Larry Drake. Thank God we got a Scarecrow film with a supernatural element where a spirit of a warlock goes into this scarecrow, and there's some great scenes, some great deaths, some stitching of the mouth. There's a lot of nudity. This guy understands that what we fans want to see in these kind of films. I own the Blu-ray. I forget who put it out. Maybe it was Olive Films. Might have been the person that did it. I do own it.
I don't know. I don't own it, so I don't know.
I feel like this was the end of Jeff Burr's hot streak. He did a couple films after this. There was one he did in the 2000s. I think Anchor Bay put it out, called Devil's Den with Ken Foray and also the guy from Idle Hands, Devin Sawa. But this film, mid-90s, kind of like forgotten, great film, good gore, lots of nudity, a killer scarecrow film, which is not enough of that subgenre. And usually it's a guy in the outfit, and it rarely is it. And
it looks very cheap normally as well, which ruins it.
Yeah, this is a really good scene. There's a lot of good stuff inside of a church, a lot of sacrilegious stuff, and it's just a strong film. It's not thought about when people think of Jeff Burr. They're talking about other films. Slasher Home Video says, "Rest in peace, one of the masters of '90s direct-to-video." Absolutely, man. That's why we're here talking about Jeff. But anyways, what are your thoughts of Night of the Scarecrow?
Been a while since I've seen it because I don't own it, but love the nudity. If there's nudity in the movie, I've seen that. Let's just put it that way. Except I do think that the manga has a better scene with the hook, But no, I do like this movie. This is one of those movies that's been on my list for a while to pick up because I haven't seen it released over it. But I like the buoyancy, I like the twist. The warlock in the Scarecrow is a lot of fun, adds a lot to the movie, and actually probably is the best Scarecrow movie out there. And I've seen quite a few of them. What people do not know is this was based, a TV series came out based on this film.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Cold War's all gummage.
It's one of those films. This is a memory movie for me. This reminds me of working at Blockbuster Video, and I know that's where I rented it first. It was something that I saw it on the shelf, and I had to get it. But I want to recap where we've come from for anybody who showed up late. We're doing a career retrospective on the prime years of filmmaker Jeff Burr. We started with The Offspring, also known from A Whisper to a Scream. Malcolm and I both agree this is the best film he's done. It's a top 3 anthology horror film for me. Stepfather 2 smokes the original. I really think it's a better film. Texas Chainsaw 3, decent. One of the better films of the series. Pumpkinhead 2 is inferior to the original, but it's still a fun film.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of Puppet Master 4 and 5, but then again, I'm not a fan of the series in general. But I feel like he ended the 90s strong with Night of the Scarecrow. A solid film, and somebody I really wish I got to interview, but I didn't. Sometimes I look back and feel like I could have tried harder because I am friends with a couple people that were close to him. If you look at this picture in the background, this is from the set of From a Whisper to a Scream. Darren Scott is the producer. I don't know who this is. Obviously, that's Vincent Price. This is a very young Jeff Burr. There's a gentleman over here that gets blocked out. That's writer C. Courtney Joyner. And the other guy with the glasses and mustache, I don't recognize him, but very strong career, very underappreciated talent. A lot of his stuff is available on either Blu-ray or DVD. I don't think there's any 4K of his work, but I feel like stuff is going to come out reissued eventually. I think he's
It will.
like, Malcolm and I previously, a couple months ago, did a similar retrospective on Anthony Hickox, who is also known for direct-to-video stuff like Warlock the Armageddon, Hellraiser 3, Waxwork 1 and 2, Sundown. These guys are very similar, like their careers, trajectory, and the kind of entertaining films they did. He says, Night of the Scarecrow is not better than Dark Knight. No, I tend to disagree, but you have a right to your opinion. They're very different, though. Agreed. I'm a big Jeff Burr fan, and I it always hurts when you lose some of these guys.
Especially when they're your heroes.
Yeah, they kind of are. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate the masters of horror that are more well known. Your Wes Cravens, your Tobe Hoopers, your Larry Cohens, but everybody knows who those guys are. And I have someone. The movies I like to champion and the filmmakers are the ones that we don't talk about enough, like Jeff Burr.
I think the sad part is people remember when it's Wes Craven's birthday, but I won't remember, Jeff Burr or Anthony Hickox or that. And it's sad because it's true, Wes Craven had great, but if it wasn't people like Jeff Burr and that, there won't be a lot of the directors we've got today because they did, the lower budget stuff.
Well, I think a good analogy to use with these kind of with cinema is also look at music. Yes, you have the big stars, but you need the underground people too. Exactly. Jim Wynorski, Brian Usna, Jeff Burr. We actually, Malcolm and I did a hilarious retrospective on The Dentist and Dentist 2, but that was just two of Brian Usna's films. We need to do a career retrospective. Don't wait till these guys pass away to appreciate them. Brian Usna is absolutely with these guys, he's
got a great film list.
And if you look at the movies I buy now, it's kind of lowbrow, direct to video, overseas, independent. As I've gotten older, I've come to embrace these films more just because they're not being made. And it's just a different time. And I don't get me wrong, I watch as much new films as old films. I watch streaming as much as I do physical media, but there needs to be a balance and there needs to be appreciation of the past. And I want to feel like not only am I educating myself, I'm educating other people, either younger audiences that might not know. And I've always been a director-driven fan.
Well, you know, as I say, if I've got the knowledge, I can always give it to the peasants and teach them.
The peasants bow before Malcolm the Almighty. I'm going to take away your freaking title as film historian, because you can't be a snob and be well, you can. There's a lot of them, but we're not going to be those kind of people. But no. I want to thank everybody for watching. We're not going to go just yet. I want to make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to our channel. I want to thank you for watching. There recently has been an uptick in viewers and subscribers, and I appreciate it. I want people to realize that this is an open forum. I really want people to comment more. I'm never going to roast you or put you on the spot. Malcolm and I are fans just like you, so don't feel shy about coming in to talk. We want to integrate people into the conversation. Joe Bagos is a current director who needs more props. One of my favorite working directors. Well, the last movie I watched by him was that Christmas movie, and it was fucking awful. That thing that was on Shudder, all they did was cuss for like 30 minutes. Him and this girl, the lead guy and the lead girl. And I love my curse words, but holy crap.
You know who needs their props? Andrew Jones.
Oh, yeah. We'll leave that for another time. But Malcolm and I will be back next week, not on Monday, our usual day, but we're going to be back on Tuesday, October 1st at 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific time to talk about the killer lineup coming for Vinegar Syndrome.
Nice.
I'm going to forego a little bit of sleep. And as soon as I'm done with that fucking video, I'm crashing and burning. But October is going to be huge. And I have a feeling the partner labels are going to put out some FOMO 1000 slipcover release, something from Shudder. And I'm not going to want to miss out. Bro, I love Christmas, Bloody Christmas. The robot at the end made up for all the bad dialogue for me. I never made it that far, man. But I'm glad. Yeah, it was Christmas, Bloody Christmas was the film. But yes, Vinegar Syndrome, tease the banner. I will briefly say I guessed the banner, and the two VSAs, I think one of them is going to be Monster High from Troma Films, but I will leave that discussion for next week. What do you want to leave with talking about Jeff Burr and Vinegar Syndrome next week?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm going to say Jeff Burr did a lot more than just horror. He did films like Spoiler and that. And I think if you really want to appreciate a director more than just like a focus like we are doing, you know, on the horror, then definitely check out his other titles as well, because he did some fairly decent ones. As for Vinegar Syndrome, I'm looking forward to seeing what they release. There's got to be a couple of Shudder ones for October. There's got to be. Because I feel so bad for you lately because you're up early for them and they're never there.
But there's still that FOMO. But you know what? It's better to... I don't want to wake up 3 hours after the sale and do it. So I want to be there live. And so please join in. We're going to talk about Vinegar Syndrome on Tuesday, October 1st. Halloween is officially in effect. At that point, you're 30 days away. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for commenting. And we'll be back next week. And stay scared. Later.
Thanks, guys. Take care.